Welcome to the Tribe Digital Marketing Series. I am joined today by Mallory Roberts, who is an engagement manager with our package services division. Mallory, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So I always like to get a little insight into you and your passions for marketing. What do you love about marketing?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing that comes to mind for me and has sort of been a theme throughout my marketing career is sales and marketing alignment. I know that's not the first time anyone's brought that up. I think it's a pretty common issue that we see with clients and, sometimes colleagues in other workplaces. So it's something that I've given quite a bit of thought to and had struggles with, both being on the in-house side of things, the corporate marketing side, and on at an agency level.
Sure.
So you see, marketing has feelings of frustration with sales, feeling like they're not supported, they're not listening, they don't understand what marketing is doing. And on the sales side, you see frustration around, visibility into what is marketing doing, why are they doing that, and is it actually helping me? And so my sort of holistic view on this topic is probably an unpopular one, but
I love it. Let's hear it.
I believe that marketing has a sales dependency. So if you think about when you go to, fill out a field in Salesforce, they have dependent fields, and I see sales as the dependent field for marketing. So whenever you think about creating a marketing initiative or putting something out in market, you have to tick the dependent sales box and make sure that there's alignment there, that there's a good purpose for it, that it's actually helpful, and that you have, the sign off from your sales team, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Sales and marketing alignment is a topic that is not new by any stretch, but it never seems to be fully solved. So it's always relevant in my mind. And I think the dependency concept is a super interesting one, especially when you think about what at least I've heard time and time again from potential customers and prospects and things like that. Well, what can we do without sales?
Yeah.
And the
that's
answer
not
is,
a question you should ask.
the answer is nothing, really.
Yeah.
You should be doing it together and coming up with a solution that really is driving the business forward. And that really works with you all, creating those codependencies and working on them together. So along that lines, then, what would you suggest for people who are operating in a different environment now that doesn't allow them to have face-to-face time with customers and prospects? What are some things they should be thinking about? Is there a sales and marketing alignment spin to that, or something different?
Yeah, great question. So, when you're in the office, it's easy to just sort of stop by, have a quick chat. And of course, that's not really possible right now. So I do believe that it is on marketing to make that initial proactive approach and make sure that sales is aware, that they have, great visibility into what's going on. I think at least at a minimum, a weekly sync with your sales executives and your marketing executives to understand, what is the priority for this week, what's going out into market, what's been, working well for the teams, and just creating that visibility spectrum. I've seen some really neat things in the past with clients where in the middle of a sales play, so maybe you've got a mix of, advertising and emails and direct mails and lots of things going on, that they will use automation tools like Marketo, for instance, to share an alert with sales in the middle of the sales play. So as soon as a FedEx DM gets delivered, a direct mail gets delivered, immediately trigger an email to sales saying, hey, this was just delivered. This person has also received XY content before this. Now's a perfect time to reach out and create that sort of like timing as a sense of urgency, and make sure that sales knows when to strike.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, has been really, really helpful in creating that, along the same lines, sales and marketing working together towards the overall campaign.
Yeah, and it brings forward that idea of dependency a lot too, right? I mean, we understand that, so we're going to send this package, we're going to hit them with a digital ad, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. But if nobody ever makes that human connection, that whole thing is going to fall flat, right? So at the front end, setting that expectation with sales to say, this is what we're going to do to support your efforts. When this happens, the SLA is expected that you're going to do this. And it's setting that dependency expectation and how things can move forward. I think that's super important. And I call it creating a common language when I do my sales and marketing alignment workshop. But I think it's that, right? Like, what are the expectations? What's the language that we're speaking together?
Yeah, absolutely. And on just like a higher level, how to engage with sales, it's all about listening and asking questions. I find so often folks will do sort of, we talk about random acts of marketing a lot, at LeadMD and at other companies. And where is the benefit and value in that for sales, and making sure there's a loop back to understand why we're doing it and what we're doing, and asking questions to see if it's provided value. I feel like, especially from like a lead management and lead routing perspective, when you get to that point where there is, it's time for, discussion and a call from sales, make sure they have all the data that they need. So tools like Marketo Sales Insight, being able to see what they've engaged with and all that, as well as alerts. And I feel like I've seen alerts that are just chock full of tons of information, like they did all of these, and like from 2 years ago, they also did this. And that's not, is that really helpful? And and timely. And so, having that sit down conversation, what information do you want to see? What about also this? Is that helpful? And don't be offended if they say no. That's the whole point of this conversation, is to make sure that you're on the same page with what actually is going to provide value and move the needle with the prospect.
And those questions sooner rather than later, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, doing it after the campaign's in flight. Okay. Maybe they didn't know about the campaign. Yeah. I mean, those types of things I think are super important. Yeah. I think now, in a time more than ever, it's important that, we're leaning into our customers heavily, but leaning into those internal relationships, like to your point, where you can't just stop by the office or the cube or whatever and just do a quick hello and a sync on things. So being intentional about those efforts, and sales and marketing alignment, in my opinion, pays huge dividends when done well. And we've even got some research to back that up. So, taking some of these tips and putting them into action today could be super powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a final word of advice would be, and this is something that I know LeadMD practice as well, which is sort of, we stand in your shoes. And I think that it's so important for marketing to stand in sales shoes, and vice versa.
Agreed.
I have experienced this sort of firsthand. I was at a conference in 2017 for demand-based, actually, and I was going through an ABM certification course, and everything that we did was so dedicated to how we can help sales, what we need to do specifically for sales to make sure that these, projects align with target audiences and all that. And I sort of took a step back and I was like, what more can I do to understand sales? Because I'm sitting here and going through all this marketing coursework and understanding how to do ABM, but like, what does this really look like on the sales side? And so I actually left my company and took a BDR role, because I really wanted to understand what the sales side of things look like. And I'm telling you, if you really want to understand what sales goes through, I feel like walking a mile in their shoes goes such a long way. I did that for about 6 months, and it was absolutely one of the most interesting and challenging times in my career as like a fledged marketer for almost my entire career. But it provides this incredible perspective into really what that world does look like. One of the questions that I had for a keynote speaker at that same conference was, marketing does all this work like up front, sort of like the messaging, getting the messages out, and we start to understand our audience, and we see, what they're engaging with and not engaging with. Why wouldn't marketing just take that next step to call and like sort of fulfill that gap role? Just thinking out loud. His response to me was, there's just not enough time. And, for someone to do both the marketing and the sales role, a lot of times, it's one of the reasons that it's split up. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna give that a shot. I'm gonna try to do both. And it's, it is 2 jobs. It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
For lots of different reasons. But so to kind of bring it back to how can we action that in times like this? If you find that things are a little slower as a result of the environment that we're in, call up one of your sales folks, call up a BDR and AE and ask them, hey, can I sit in on a call? Can I listen to how you project our company's, brand and what kind of questions you're getting and what the feedback is on the content that we have, and just try to understand what they have to do and are doing every day. And I think that creates a link of empathy between sales and marketing. That's really important.
Love it. If you've never had a phone book dropped on your desk and said dial, you've never lived.
You have never lived. What a time. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mallory. These are awesome insights. Appreciate you joining.